Do you fully trust the mainstream narrative? Are you on the fence? Well, if this is the first time finding this channel or hearing anything about the previous civilization, get ready to have your mind blown. We are given the St. Anne Shrine, located in Fall River, Massachusetts. We are given the mainstream history, where we are told the church was designed by Canadian architect Napoleon Bourassa in the Romanesque Revival style, with construction beginning in 1891. Well, I have located a postcard from over 120 years ago of this building, and there is a major flaw on the back of this postcard that I don't think that anyone was ever meant to see, and we're about to see it right now. St. Anne's Church and Shrine, Fall River, Massachusetts, founded in 1869, which is 22 years before they tell us that construction was just starting on this project in 1891. Not only do they give us the date of 1869, they also say that it was founded. We have proven in episode 35 that the legal definition of the word founded is not constructed or built. You do not find your home, you build your home. It is constructed. In 1869, they found this building, and they are attempting to lie to us in the narrative time and time again. This time we can see the lie right on the table for everybody to see. What a horrible mistake by the narrator. It is 100% undeniable proof that the story is lying to us, with a total mix-up, having this 1869 founded date on the back of a postcard that they thought nobody would ever see. This building was not built by people riding around on horses and wagons. This building was found. It was built by the previous civilization that had incredible knowledge and architecture skills and understood how to construct buildings that last forever. So now that we know that this building was founded and the narrative is a complete lie, let's take a look into this architect character, Mr. Napoleon Bourassa. And when we take a look at his biography, the character never actually leaves Canada, besides a little vacation to Europe. If he is truly constructing this palace in Massachusetts, this would have been mentioned, considering it's more impressive than anything we have ever constructed today. But the fact that they act like this is pathetic and not even worth mentioning, especially in a time period where presidents were being born in sheds. This should be alarming to anyone. They say his office is in Quebec, Canada, born in Montreal, Canada, visited Europe, founded the Canadian Journal, doing more in Montreal, Canada, in 1880 finding the National Gallery of Canada. Him and his fellow artists are doing more in Quebec, Canada, then dies in Canada. Where is the part that he throws his cowboy hat on, saddles up, heads down to Massachusetts on his horse and wagon, and works for the shipping company Donkeys Incorporated, and knocks out a massive palace? It's not in the narrative, because Napoleon Dynamite didn't do this. It was already found in 1869, exactly like we have shown. The narrative is fully lying to us, and we have fully documented this. Now, we have talked about the Samuel Hannaford and Sons in episode 24, I believe, and I thought I would let you all know that they also decided to knock this building out, the Greene County Courthouse in Ohio. And don't forget that they were just incredible. Their chisels just moved a little faster than the rest of ours. Beginning this project in 1901 and completing it in less than 12 months. The winters, of course, weren't an issue. They never were in the 1800s. Try and recreate this project in less than a year. It wouldn't even be close, and we all know this now. So we might ask, in 1901 to 1902, we were able to get these projects done so fast all over the world. It was so easy. What happened? Where did this technology go? Why do we not still do this today? The answer is clear at this point. These stories aren't true. These buildings were not built in 1 year. They were found and repurposed. They used the same architect characters from multiple buildings to attempt to explain them away. We lost this technology within the last 122 years to construct massive structures in a year? No. Our timeline never had this technology, and we are being lied to. Just adding in primary features of 4,500-pound clocks that are inside of a clock tower that reaches 145 feet into the sky. With perfection, of course. Oh, and the 4,500-pound clock inside of the frame that weighs an additional 3,000 pounds, and of course every hour, still ringing today. This alone would have taken us 5 years to get done. Considering it takes us like a year to get a sidewalk done, and our sidewalks fall apart in like 5 years. This building, on the other hand, with a clock tower and all, will be there forever, as long as nobody touches it. In September of 2022, we have an article in the Dayton Daily News where apparently the building needs our help. We all know that restoration really means destruction at this point. In my opinion, something happened within the last year or so, where a lot of these buildings are being destroyed or restored. And we have a lot of episodes where we have gone to these places and documented that. The Greene County Courthouse will be getting a facelift. Oh, incredible. This fall, as the county seeks to repair and restore and destroy the exterior of the historic building. A $322,000 project to destroy the outside of the old building, which is obviously one of Greene County's most recognizable landmarks. And this next sentence is going to show how old this building really is. The courthouse currently has some limestone that is spalling and in need of repairs. The definition of the word spalling is break off in fragments. Now, how long does it take for stone to break down? You could say that stones decompose over many thousands and even millions of years. Do we all believe that this limestone is spalling in just 100 years? Or is this building much older than we are told? I'd like you to comment below with your opinion. But you all know which way I'm leaning. Incredible stuff. Oh, and of course, they've wanted to do this for a very long time. I mean, how much clearer could this get? This building was not built in less than a year in 1901 to 1902. They've wanted to fix the spalling stone for a long time. And I have to be honest, I don't even know if they realize what they're saying at this point, but they're actually admitting that it's way older than 1901, whether they realize it or not. And of course, additional destructions will be made to the courthouse that they just aren't going to let us know about. Now, this was all back in 2022, so I'm guessing it'll all be done by now, considering it supposedly only took them less than a year to complete the entire building in 1901 to 1902. And we're evolving and advancing, right? Now, while researching this, I thought Greene County only had one courthouse, which they do, but all of a sudden, I was sitting there with two Greene County courthouses, but they're both in a county called Greene. What is with the AI repeating itself over and over? Duplicates all the time. Is this how all the names were created? For all the towns, all the cities, all the characters that they give us? It's all so strange. So we have the Greene County Courthouse that we just talked about over in Ohio, but we have another Greene County in Illinois with another courthouse that was supposedly constructed in less than a year. So both built in less than a year. And this one is even older than the last one that we just talked about. Built in a year from 1891 to 1892. And we all know that this is logistically impossible at this point. We have gone over this for anyone that is new here, or for anyone that wants to revisit this. I think episode 41 is awesome at going over this. There are so many key factors that come into play when designing, preparing, constructing, and executing a building to perfection. You have to have everything go perfect. And even then, knocking it out in a year, over 130 years ago, is insane. It's almost turning into a test to see who gets the joke at this point. Both named the same thing, and both built in less than a year. In an interview from 2014, the Greene County clerk and recorder says in an article titled Greene County Courthouse stands the test of time. Exactly what we've been saying here on this channel. And of course, exactly how our construction that we only take 10 months on lasts forever. It stands the test of time. Oh, it doesn't? No, it doesn't. So she says, we have done some rewiring and other things like that, but that's about the only thing wrong with the place. Knocking it out in a year. Good forever. Very standard work for the 1890s, because they just worked harder than us, of course. Just more dedicated. Less distractions and less code restrictions. Yeah, sorry, but that doesn't cut it anymore. The 3-story limestone Romanesque revival style building will be there forever, as long as they leave it alone. So in the article, they start saying that there were multiple courthouses here before this one. Because why not? And we all know at this point that this is the first courthouse. It's the only one that's ever been here. But I wanted to see what they had to say about all of these other courthouses. So the county was created in 1821. What do you know? They knocked a courthouse out in 1821 to 1822. Now, we have talked a lot about reoccurring names, and this is not the first time we've seen this. I brought it up before, and I'm going to bring it up again. Episode 43, for anyone new here, is the best example of this. The AI is generating these names and these stories, in my opinion. And here, we have another example of this. The courthouse was a long frame structure and was built by William Finley and another Finley, Thomas. So those names would be fine if we didn't have hundreds of examples of this. We would just say that they are brothers. The problem is that we know what is going on here. It isn't brothers. And I will prove this because in the exact same paragraph, we have Thomas Finley and Thomas Ratton. Multiple Thomases and multiple Finleys. The odds are 0%. There is no chance that this is remotely possible, especially with all of the hours and hours of documented evidence that we have provided. This has happened so many times. This is becoming clearer and clearer by the week. It's in every single city, every single town, all over the world. It's the exact same thing. In the comments section, you guys are all saying the exact same thing in your towns, where you find a fire story, and you find the same thing with reoccurring themes and names. It's the same thing all over the world. These are AI-generated names, in my opinion, where they throw a bunch of names into this system and it twists them a little bit, making each story basically the same thing, but just dedicated to that one specific spot. It's undeniable at this point. And then you have the classic half windows at the current ground level, where there is clearly more to this building under the ground, and most likely a tunnel system connecting it to surrounding buildings. I have founded this photo of the Summer Street fire, and honestly, these are brick buildings. Fires don't look like bombs went off. This is not the result of a fire, in my opinion. It looks like the city was carpet bombed. It's just completely wiped out. It's a total mess. Fires don't do this kind of damage. I mean, it looks like the whole area is in the middle of a garbage site at this point. There's just dirt everywhere. There's nothing left. And remember, there was a great fire in nearly every major city. Check it out. I guarantee there was one in a city near you. So, were these really fires? Or were they being bombed to wipe these buildings out that were everywhere? Buildings that we have shown that hold dates on them. Buildings that 100% do not fit in our timeline. It's incredible stuff. I mean, look at these photos. This is the result of a fire? No. In my opinion, there is no way. House fires do not melt stone and brick. It has to be close to 1,500 degrees to 2,000 degrees to melt stone. And house fires simply don't get that hot. Look at the destruction. The ground is really messed up. I mean, what building was in this location that they did not want us to see? Just knowing what we know, seems like it was probably a good one. And just a few more photos here, showing the destruction of these fires that started by a cow tipping over a lantern. But at least they switched it up. From horses and cowboys to the stone and marble shipping company, Donkeys Incorporated, to a cow, just rubbing it right in our faces for decades. Until now. Through forensic photo analysis, I've found a massive historical cover-up. I started by looking at photos from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. This specific photo caught my eye. Something was off, and that's when I zoomed in on it. The tree line has clearly been altered. It's much darker behind the trees, where the editor got lazy and didn't wipe out the sky. And this was just the beginning of it. Because when I see one flaw, I know that it's time to investigate. A forensic photo analysis uses algorithms that we can determine if it's a real photo, computer generated, or if it was modified and edited. So I sent the photo into the forensic photo analysis, and the results were shocking. We clearly have something in the sky that has been removed from this photo. Before I give my thoughts on what it is, I just want all of you to look at it for a second and let me know in the comments below what you think that is. I'll also show you a comparison to another photo that I had analyzed to show that having a figure in the sky is not random and not normal. There was something here in this photo and it's been edited out. It's undeniable. It's been removed to hide it from our timeline. In my opinion, this was an airship. We were never supposed to understand just how popular this free form of transportation really was. It was much more powerful than we could ever imagine. Here we have a castle. Oh, did I say castle? I meant courthouse. We have the Royal Courts of Justice, located in London, England, where for some weird reason, they just couldn't decide on a design for this project. There were so many designs coming in with master plans that they needed to hold a design competition, which was very common back in the 1800s because, of course, these 1800s people were just brilliant. It was very simple stuff back then. They just weren't distracted. They worked harder than us. And as long as they could draw it on a piece of paper with their feather, Donkeys Incorporated had the construction side of things down. Never an issue in the 1800s. So the competition began in 1866 and ended in 1867. After 12 architects drew up their master plans, something that nobody will ever create again today, they supposedly had 12 guys in just London that could draw this type of thing up. We have a total of 0 people that could draw this up and get it constructed in the entire world, let alone just London. 158 years ago, according to the mainstream narrative, this was, of course, no problem at all. Very simple stuff. So in 1868, they picked George Street. He was the champion of this contest. He went and got Messrs. Bull and his sons. Because in the 1800s, every single construction company in the whole world has to have sons at the end of it for some reason. Going back to the great Samuel Hannaford's and Sons, and there's many other examples throughout the episodes. In fact, I would love to know how many times we found a company with sons attached to the name. In my opinion, this is another clear pattern, proving that the AI is generating these names all over the world. Now, just to put this all into perspective, if we are trusting the mainstream story, only 57 years prior to all of this happening, Abe Lincoln, a president of the United States, was being born in this masterpiece. The USA supposedly broke away from England and supposedly beat them in the war. If the USA was that smart and could beat England in a war, surely an architect or two would have followed along to America. I mean, London alone had 12. Surely the USA would have gotten 1 or 2. So in 1809, we have shed masterpieces being put together with perfection. And all over London, we have the interior, holding more than 1,000 rooms that include various meeting chambers, administrative offices, and at least, but could be more, than 78 courtrooms. Additionally, there are 3.5 miles of corridors, and supposedly have all of this being constructed, even though we're told that the Masons led a serious strike in the beginning of the project. Bullcrap and Sons had to find more master builders, which of course was simple stuff in the 1800s. There was plenty to go around. So they were able to get some from Germany, and they knocked this entire thing out with perfection. And it will last forever. And even though there were some issues finding new people to construct this place, it wasn't a problem really. They got the whole thing done and settled in just 8 years. Are you on the fence? Should we go deeper? Not only was this done with perfection, the winner of the contest, George Street, as we have seen so many times before, dies before the project was completed. This is so repetitive, where the winner of a design competition doesn't live to see the end of the project, and they're able to just bring anybody else in to finish it. Doesn't matter who. Everybody could do this back in the 1800s with ease. So then we have the Church of St. Mary, the Virgin Ivanhoe. And this will all tie together, but this was found around 800 years ago, in the year 1220, or 1222, which, I mean, come on. It was the booming 1200s. They worked by moonlight. Very busy people, very dedicated. Lots of skilled hunters and gatherers, without a power tool in sight. Actually 673 years away from a power tool, supposedly. And of course the building will be there forever. They are addicted to lying, because it is thought that an even older church may have originally stood here. I'm just surprised they didn't say that the first one burned down in a fire. The church was of course rebuilt, for some reason, in the year 1234, which was only 12 years after they say they found it. And they say that some of the original features survived. Survived? Wait, why are they rebuilding it? What happened? Did I miss some? Oh, you gotta be joking. 4 years after they found it, it supposedly burned down in a fire. To believe these stories, it would take some effort at this point. And I'm just gonna be honest with you. In my opinion, that isn't even the craziest part of the story. Let's go even deeper. But before we do that, I just want to show you all the reoccurring AI-generated names really quick. We have Richard Blackhead and Richard Seward. So we have two Richards. And of course, Peter Desroches and Peter Chekapork. So we got two Peters and two Richards. We have more builders in London that like to build with their sons, John Warner and Sons, with, of course, another John down here at the bottom, John Downcombe, where he has two wives, marries both of them, and one's named Mary. We have John Downcombe, and of course, we can't forget about the other Downcombe, Thomas, and the other one, William. And for the best part of this name generator, William married two people, Mary and Alice, spelled A-L-I-C-E. John Downcombe. Guess who he marries? Do I even need to say it? I think we all know at this point what her name will be. Another Alice, spelled A-L-Y-C-E. If you're new to this and on the fence, if the AI is generating these names, this is not the first time that this has happened. You're gonna wanna check out episode 43 and all the reoccurring names in that one. Are we having fun? Are we ready for the best part? Remember, when we are told about the George Street guy, you know, the guy that died in the middle of the 1,000 room palace project that was done in 8 years, 158 years ago? Guess who the AI just had to add in here to try to explain this one away as well? Mr. George Edmund Street. When in 1871 to 1872, he of course knocked out some Victorian Gothic revival style elements and built the north and south porches, as well as a medieval style baptistry. Of course he did. None of that was original, and this is totally believable. Oh, wait, it isn't? No, this was here long before anyone named George Street came around, and he did not do any medieval style construction in a year, 153 years ago. This was constructed by the previous civilization that was much more advanced than we are today. And now that we know that George Street is a pawn in their generated system, it's time to investigate even further. I have located George Street in all of his supposed projects. And remember, in the 1800s, he was doing projects that we cannot recreate today. In just 1 year, George Street was supposedly born in 1824. How old do you think he was when he was completing his first building? 35 would be shocking. 30 is insane. We are told that George Street got to work and built the St. Mary's Church in 1848, making Street just 24 years old. And if you go onto this church's website, they say he was 22, where his sister, an embroiderer, heard of a Cornish clergyman and needed a new church built. Who better to ask than a 22 or 24-year-old clerk? His sister, Mary, prevailed to give her inexperienced brother the commission for his brand new church. The rest, as they say, is his story. So obviously this is ridiculous. And we need to keep digging because, wait, oh, are they really gonna keep doing this today? What was his sister's name again? And what is the church's name? Both named Mary? Okay, I think at this point we can be sure that they won't do it again. Right? No. No way. George Street, his name is George. What is the guy's name that is building the building that hired George Street? They're not going to tell us that this guy's name is also George. If they say that his name is George, then I don't know what I'm going to do, but what is Reverend Prine's name? You know, the Cornish clergyman who intended to build the new Street Mary Church, where George's sister Mary went and asked George Prine. I knew it was the AI before. I don't get shocked at things very often. This one is just so in your face. It's incredible. The good old Cornish clergyman giving away work in Cornwall. Amazing. I think we can do a few episodes on this first George Street, and probably a few episodes on the second George and all the Marys. Let me know if you want me to dig more into their narrative. So George Street, the first George, the 22 or 24-year-old master builder. Remember, he He was constructing this 1,000-room courthouse in London for 7 years because he was kicked out of the script a year before it got done in 1882. This is the exact same time period where you have all this chaos going on around the world. Nobody is focused on these narratives. You have all these millions of orphans all over the USA. You have the Civil War going on. You have slavery. You have all these insane high-intensity type events going on all over the place. People were not looking into George Street and the hundreds of buildings that they were pinning on this character. In fact, even if they wanted to, it wasn't written in a book yet. And they didn't have the resources to prove anything. So they just had to simply believe it. And everyone accepted it as the truth until now. 1873 to 1881, George Street is pinned as the man in charge of the Royal Courts of Justice for those 8 years. I would love to know if he was fully focused on this project, one that we could never reproduce today in 8 years. And we have shown the Kleksinski building in Chicago, where it is a basic box that took our civilization 14 years to build, from 1960 to 1974. Or was George so good at his job that he could also get multiple other projects done at the exact same time? 1873 to 1881, George has been pinned and said to have had 42 other projects going on at the exact same time. Still believing the mainstream narrative? They tell us that the Linenwold Castle, located in Ambler, Pennsylvania, was designed by Milton Bean and built in 1890 without any details on its construction. It's just done in 1890. Where Madison lived in the castle with his second wife, Mary, where after Madison died, the new people turned this palace into an orphanage called St. Mary's. Mary, Mary, Mary. So we have a massive castle, done in 1 year or less. And for decades, that's all we needed to hear for it to be true, until now, where we understand that logically, that is impossible, especially 134 years ago. And especially when it's a castle straight out of the old world civilization's home improvement catalog. Here on HouseHisTree.com, in the middle of this story that has zero logistical details or anything relevant to actually building anything, and just has a bunch of nonsense, like naming sons royal, retired business partners, and telling us how many rooms are in this castle that they found. They do give us a tip, and the tip is the Windsor Castle. The sentence reads that Madison might have chose to model his castle after the Windsor Castle, which is the most popular answer. And it's the most popular answer among which group? Because that is definitely not the most popular answer to us, but they think it might be modeled after another castle nearby, and they all dispute it for years and years. And remember, it's all nonsense. We have no idea who this group is that they tell us that this is the most popular thought. What I see in all of this is one thing: the Windsor Castle. And I want to see what year they say this Windsor Castle was built in, because I bet you it is connected to this castle. And this castle in Pennsylvania might have actually been built hundreds of years ago, if not thousands. And they will give it all away with this Windsor Castle connection. Located in Berkshire, Windsor, built in 1070, over 954 years ago as a fortress, and covers 484,000 square feet of living space, divided into about 1,000 rooms. So something is extremely clear here. We are 100% being lied to about our history. And we all know that, but I have to say it out loud, because 1,000 years ago, they are building 1,000 room fortresses with ease. And it of course lasts forever, no questions asked. And today we have evolved so much that we can't build a sidewalk without stepping in it before it dries. Now, this is my opinion, but I can see them adding this Windsor Castle into the narrative for a specific reason. And I personally think it's to connect the dates, that these castles are from nearly 1,000 years ago, when the previous civilization that had all the technology, had proper training, and had the logistics down. Instead of the opposite happening, where we are told that there were no classes in castle building at the local community college in the year 1070, where they would go home to their sheds and sleep with candlelight, freezing using barn hay as beds, and then waking up again traveling by horse and wagon to pull stone and granite miles on a trail, and getting this 1,000 room fortress done no problem. The timeline is clearly all over the place at this point. They could have told us that it was built in the year 1045, it would have made no difference. And people would have just believed it until you start digging deeper, which we are doing here. Episode 41 is awesome at showing the proper logistics of a project, if you're interested in that after this. The castle has, of course, 300 fireplaces and 379 clocks. Do any of our towns have any upcoming plans to knock a 1,000 room, 300 fireplace fortress out in the next few years? What about half that? No? With our modern construction, 1,000 years after they did this, we should be able to do this with ease, since they did, without a power tool in sight. Supposedly, we have a better education system, so we are told. We have more knowledge than ever, supposedly. What is wrong with this picture? I would say a lot. Do you understand that something is wrong with the timeline? Something massive? Can we all see the lie very clearly now? We have been lied to about all of this, starting around the year 1800, and possibly right before that, where everything in our timeline began. And the old world buildings from the previous civilization are still here for us to see, in every city, with insane narratives to try to fit them into this lie, where we are told that people from 1,000 years ago were less than us, worse off. And we are told that we have all this brand new technology in the last 200 years. Everything is brand new. Every company was created recently, all over the world. Is that not strange to you? And we're told this new technology has never been here before. Planes, trains, cars, phones, computers, internet, and the AI, when it has. And in my opinion, it's been here many times before. We have located a map that is no longer here. But we have found a photo of it, and I'm going to show it to the world today. We are given a mainstream narrative, force-fed a narrative from day one, and on average, given more money for the rest of our lives if you continue through this indoctrination program, this system, longer than everybody else, and call it college. We are told these narratives for decades, molding our minds to believe that cathedrals, such as the Hereford Cathedral, was completed in the year 1250, 774 years ago, where we have shown that the mainstream narrative tells us that basically nobody was even here, telling us that the population of nobody was so much more advanced than billions of people that we have today, while at the same time telling us that we are evolving and advancing. A population of basically nobody, knocking out palaces with zero training programs, no lights, no power tools, nothing. And then these palaces are here before us today, looking better than ever, looking better than anything we construct today. Go inside one of them, and you will feel its presence, that they are much more than we are told. We are given a narrative that holds keys that we have found right here on this channel. We have exposed these patterns to the whole world. We have shown that these narratives all over the world are created by the same source. These keys are given to us. And in my opinion, they have always been here, where they were just waiting to see who could find them. I think this is a game, and lucky for us, it's a game that we are very good at. When we dig deeper into this Hereford Cathedral, and we find that its origins held an even earlier church, where the new church had a very short life, of course, for it was plundered and burned down in 1056. It was not, however, destroyed until its custodians had offered vigorous resistance. So we get the fire nod, and now we know that it's time to go deeper and show that this cathedral was built by an extremely advanced civilization, one that we are not being told about, one that constructed these incredible structures all over the world, a population that was much bigger than what we have today, a population that didn't ride around on donkeys. They fully understood how to construct a palace that lasts forever. After hitting the chisel with a hammer all day long, they did not go over to their horse parking spot, where the horse was just standing all day long. They did not ride their horse home and sleep in a wooden shed. This extremely advanced group of people, this group is being hidden from us. And the proof is all over the world. And the coolest part about this research, in my opinion, is that you can go inside these palaces today. And they're in almost every single city in the world. Hereford Castle, check the inside out. Look at those wooden plank benches. compared to the incredible construction of the palace itself. Look at the ceilings. The craziest part about this is that there was never a bad construction company in the 1250s, according to the mainstream narrative. Not a single flaw in any country. This fact alone should have alarms going off in everybody's head, if they haven't been going off already. And if they're not going off, I'm gonna fix that right now. A place of worship has existed on the exact same site of this present building since the 700s or earlier. Another narrative where there are multiple buildings on the same site. And we have all the documents backing this statement up. No. This cathedral has the largest library of chained books in the world, where this gets very interesting. This palace is home to the Mappa Mundi, which is its most famous treasure. A map from the old world, in my opinion. We are told this is from over 700 years ago. A map of the old world with Jerusalem at its center. Are we ready to go even deeper? A larger Mappa Mundi, the Ebstorf map, was destroyed by Allied bombings in 1943, though photographs of it survived. Now, we can all see how these operations worked. We understand at this point what wars were most likely used for. We are beginning to understand the entire operation at this point. And through hours and hours of clues, repetition from the narrative, a massive amount of clear lies, there are less and less sitting at the other side of the table. Now, let's take a look at this map. Let's pretend that this is a true depiction of where we live. The other one in 1946, obviously delivering it. We can see is right here in the center with Jesus on the cross. You have mermaids down here and a clear depiction of a griffin, which we know is linked to Tartaria. All of this showing me that there is so much more to our true history than what we are being told in these classrooms. This place that we live is not at all what we are told. On the right-hand side, you have people with faces on their chest. And right above Jesus, you have the Tower of Babel. Now, normally when something is written down, I have a very hard time believing it to be real. But the fact that they bombed the other one definitely shows me that there's something about this map that is very important to us. Let's take a look at the one that they bombed. This is where they tell us that in 1843, they found this map in a convent in northern Germany. It was 12 feet by 12 feet. Again, all centered around Jerusalem. And remember that they tell us a very interesting detail, that they found this map in 1843, where exactly 100 years later, on the dot, in 1943, they bombed it and destroyed it during the Allied bombings. All of this happening during our current civilization, wiping out possibly the true history, possibly the true map. If this place that we live is really centered around Jerusalem, and in 1946 the narrative changed, bombing this map and possibly other things inside that building that would have given a lot of stuff away to us, which was of course also in northern Germany, where you can begin to put the pieces together. The map is based on earlier maps, including this altar world map, which we are told yet again that Jerusalem is the center of the map. This one being held in the British Library, which was drawn around 1260, but we have no idea who drew it. Where we know all about the year 1079. We know all about the year 794, where some character was beheaded, where Offa had supposedly consented to give his daughter to Ethelbert in marriage. Why he changed his mind and deprived him of his head, historians do not know. Now, I show this because it's entertaining to me that the narrative gives us these detailed stories from the year 794, but then leave out the most important details of a groundbreaking map, or can't tell us who built the buildings in 1900, like we've shown in episode 33, when we just emailed them and they couldn't tell us. Going back to this map that was bombed in 1946, I'm going to zoom in on it and show you all that there were no huts. There were no plastic siding houses. Every single depiction is of a palace. Palace after palace after palace across the entire map. And there are a few that remain today. And these are the buildings that we are discussing on this channel. The ones that remain. But we can clearly see that there were so many more that have been removed from our view. Now the word medieval, in my eyes, is another word for the old world. They explain the narrative away by simply calling it medieval. So let's remember this going forward. Right on their website, the Hereford Cathedral tells us that the medieval cathedral was not monastic. They even tell us that the map that they hold inside this place, the map that we discussed today, is one of the world's unique medieval treasures. Our timeline starts around 1700 and then spikes in the 1800s with massive operations going on in the 1800s. All in my opinion, of course, based on everything that we have seen. But this is why I always check the 1800s for major destruction projects of these incredible palaces. Oh, wait, did I say destruction? I meant restoration. When you go to the mid-1800s yet again, we have the exact same narrative here. 1841 to 1863, major restoration of the cathedral. A cathedral that did not need our help. In fact, we weren't even given the power tool until 1895. So what major renovations could our horse and wagon friends have truly done to this palace? Do you think it's possible that they removed things that did not fit into our mainstream timeline? Before we go into the bonus, I'm going to show you this, how I don't believe that the Mappa Mundi has always been here at this location. I believe that it was put here when we are told the only complete world map of its kind to have survived, a fascinating pictorial encyclopedia of the medieval world, where it may have been, it might have been, maybe, but the mainstream narrative is of course iffy on that. It might have been made for the Hereford Cathedral and has been here for most of its life. Most of its life. Not all of its life? Where was it before? Who really made this map? Why was the other one bombed? This is extremely interesting stuff, especially when this is all on their website. And in my opinion, an admission that this was not theirs. This was not there in that palace for its whole life. They even call it medieval, and they have now taken possession of it. Oh, in 1786, the west tower of the cathedral just collapses overnight on Easter Monday. Just random, of course. Do we think that that was random? You tell me. Clearly a palace from the old world. And just for fun, let's show the repeating names. Robert of Lorraine, Robert de Botton, 4 more Roberts buried here. And then we have 2 Thomases with 3 more Thomases buried there. And we can't leave out a couple Hughes thrown in back to back. Located at 651 Main Street, Buffalo, New York. Opening in 1877. We have the Dr. Ray V. Pierce Palace Hotel, where this gets wild. We've talked about energy here on this channel. How these buildings hold energy, but this gets deep. The place was half hotel, half hospital, where the baths and gymnasiums on the campus were known nationwide for their healing and restorative powers. A healing hotel. Where is this why a lot of the old world buildings have been destroyed? Because they held healing powers for all of us. Where 2 presidents were frequent visitors. Pierce's Palace Hotel was open only 4 years before it burned down in 1881. And are we right or what? Is this not a nod? I'm not joking. Every time I see this narrative, I am more and more surprised. For one, that we never noticed this before. And for 2, that they really put this in the narrative over and over and over, all over the world. And we know here that that building was much older than just 4 years. And you can see what I'm talking about with all of these fires when we just flip over to the St. Peter's Cathedral Basilica in London, Ontario, and see that they just throw this into the narrative as a nod to their group for future generations, in my opinion, to recognize which buildings are from the previous civilization, where it says that there were multiple churches on this location. The first one was destroyed in the London fire, 1845, and a larger frame church was built. But this church also burned down in 1850, 5 years later. And we have a whole series about this nod called The Fire Games. It's all in a playlist, which includes episode 68 and episode 69. So now let's get back to this Pierce's Hotel. After that fire that we just showed, in 1881, Pierce opened his hotel and surgical institute on the 600 block of Main Street, which survived until 1941, where things begin to get interesting. The beginning of the end for the Pierce's Hotel and Surgical Institute likely came to an end in 1939 when the Federal Trade Commission included this cease and desist order in a stipulation. They were basically no longer allowed to call themselves doctors or medical men. They were no longer able to give medical advice. Not being able to call themselves doctors or call their advice medical advice must have been a lethal blow a little over a year later, where in my opinion, this was the end of this old world medicine, old world healing powers coming to an end when on August 1st, 1941, the Hotel and Surgical Institute discontinued operations, and Pierce, the one that had this knowledge of old world healings, passes away. And 2 years after that, 1944, Kane announced that they would be destroying all of the Pierce's estate's glass work. I have an email that you're going to want to see later in this episode that will give us all 100% proof that these buildings are much older than we're told, and that the millions of people that are researching this topic of the old world are not wrong. I've been looking into Pasadena for a few years now and saw that they have the Rose Bowl Stadium. It was built in 1922, and I started to zoom out on it on Google Earth and saw that there is a huge golf course right next to the stadium. Now, there's a lot of evidence circulating that there are specific golf courses and hotels around the world that are covering the old world's remains. I wouldn't be shocked at all if this area was all old world buildings and completely wiped out and buried. And we now have a golf course sitting on this strange cutout land. The reason I say that is because there are so many old world buildings around this area, and the overall shape of this golf course looks so odd, as if they needed to cover something massive. Both the Rose Bowl Stadium and the Brookside Golf Course are owned by the city of Pasadena. This golf course was built in 1928, and the Rose Bowl was built in 1922. So within 6 years, this area of land was covered up. Now, let's begin to show why I'm suspicious of this area. The city of Pasadena is filled with old world buildings, but what could have been here is what I will never stop thinking about. If they allowed this city hall to survive, what could have been here in this location of this massive golf course? Now, let's check out the city hall. When I walked up to it, I couldn't believe how big it was. We have pillars hundreds of feet in the air. They tell us that this was completed in 1927 with a population of about 40,000 people. It's time to construct a massive city hall. One that we definitely don't construct today, but 100 years ago, this was of course standard procedure to make buildings that blow your mind. Now, I'm not even going to hold back what we're doing today. Right across the street, probably 30 feet away, we have the All Saints Church. And this thing is what gives all of this away from me, that these buildings are much older than they tell us. This church was founded in 1882 with a population of around 4,000 people in Pasadena, and half of them being children. They were able to construct this, and it just so happens that the city hall is 30 feet away, right in the backyard. Then we can go right over to the Library of Pasadena, where they have some of the most incredible stonework right on the front wall of the entrance. Why is there ancient architecture in Southern California? And why were they building massive public libraries like this in 1882, the exact same year that the All Saints Church was founded in? I'm saying founded, but at this point in the research, it was found and repurposed. I just want to clear that up really quick. So we have, let's say, around 1,000 people living here in Pasadena that are able to actually work and construct buildings. How many of them are trained to construct like this? Probably zero. But does that matter to the mainstream narrative? Of course not. So I say around 1,000 people because we have like 4,000 people living here in 1882. Half of them are children. So that brings it down to a 2,000. Then there are people 65 and older. Not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying they may not want to get up on the roof in the 1800s. So we're sitting at around 1,000 people that could have been eligible to possibly construct this thing. in this town. 4,000 people do not need this. So that gives it away right there. But let's continue and drive it home even further. Remember, we are told that they were building multiple structures in 1882, and we approved this. So did 500 of them work on one building and 500 of them worked on the other building? And were they all the most incredible construction workers of all time? Is it possible that this is an old world library that was found on December 26th in 1882? Is that possible? I believe it was found. Can we stop for a second and just look at what we're being told? They aren't even giving us construction dates. This isn't 600 years ago. So there isn't any excuse for this. They're just saying they found this building in 1882. Not construction began on this date and ended on this date. None of that. This isn't the only building in the world right here that this has happened to either. We have proven this over and over and over. And if I told you that my house was found in 1882, would you believe me? No, of course not. And you shouldn't. You should always ask questions. You should ask, where did I get the materials? Which construction company did I use? How long did it take me to get the permits? Did you use the taxpayers' money to build it? How many horses did I use to move all these materials? And from where? And why did I need a house that has 18 bedrooms when you're the only one living in the house? Which construction company was making these incredible buildings at the same time? Who trained these workers? Which school did they go to? If you aren't asking these questions, then you're not going to find any answers. And at this point, if they tell us a fake story, we're going to figure it out. And I guarantee it. Should we get back to the proof? This church didn't start on fire or anything, did it? They wouldn't give it all away with a fire story, would they? If you've been here before and seen my previous episodes, here we go. The All Saints Episcopal Church, located in Pasadena, California, has a parish hall. This parish hall suffered extensive damage during 2 separate fires in the exact same year of 1976. 2 fires in the same year? Yeah, this is normal. No, it isn't. A clear attempt to destroy the previous civilization's construction, clearly failing. But the fire addition to the story is key. Whether it happened or not, in this case I would say that it did, but again, it is a fire story. The fire gives it away. When they say that a fire happened 100 years ago, I'm a little skeptical if it actually happened. And that they just throw that in there as code, that this is a building from the past. As for a fire that happened relatively recent, I would say it's also code, but an attempt to destroy the actual building and collect the insurance check. It's better than hiring a bulldozer or a wrecking ball, and then no one ever questions it ever again. They can say that it was a faulty electrical switch, and that's the end of the old world building. Now back over to the Pasadena City Hall. So this place was supposedly cracking and needs to be fixed up in 2004. So they had a group come in and fix it up a little to protect it from earthquakes, which is great. But can we just stop and think for a second? The City Hall has been here for a long time. In my opinion, hundreds of years. California has earthquakes all the time. The building was doing just fine for decades, if not centuries. Did it really need a repair? Or did they want to get rid of something? Now here, this group did the repairs, and they get an award, a golden ticket. Do you normally get golden tickets for renovating a random building from 1927? I think we all know deep down that this thing wasn't really built in 1927. We all know this thing has a deeper history, and you can feel it just by looking at it. And that's why our research is so important. We know that it has a deeper history, and we are taking it a step further. We're investigating and improving that these buildings are from a past civilization that was extremely powerful in every country, with technology that clearly surpasses what we are capable of today. We're giving these buildings the recognition that they deserve. We don't just walk past these buildings. So they tell us that this City Hall was designed by Bakewell and Brown. And if we click on this group, it'll for sure give us a few other buildings that are from the old world. They always use a group like this to explain away like 5 or 10 old world buildings. Here we have the San Francisco City Hall, completed in 1916, of course. Very simple construction in 1916. Just draw it up on a piece of paper in the early 1900s and it'll be right over here forever. Unlike anything we ever do today. This had to have taken 20 to 30 years to build, especially in a time where people were using basic tools that we would laugh at today. What? Wait, this only took 3 years to complete from start to finish? Starting in 1913 and finished right up 3 years later in 1916. This is amazing stuff, especially when he had 2 other projects going on at the same exact time. This is insane. I think if I went back to college history class today, it would be comedy hour. Did they think we were never going to find this information? Are you all ready to have some fun? The emails that I mentioned earlier, there are two. The first one is awesome. The second one should open some eyes. Here we go. So I couldn't find any information on these two buildings on the internet, the First Church of Christ Science and the First United Methodist Church of Pasadena. So I emailed them both directly, and what they replied back to me blew my mind. We will start with the email that I sent to the First Church of Christ Science. I asked 3 questions to both places. First, I wanted to know the years of construction. The second question was, which construction company did they use? And the third question I had was, who was the architect? Basic questions for an incredible construction process that was supposedly not that long ago. Are you ready for their answers? This incredible church was constructed in 1 year, from 1909 to 1910, by the incredible Engstrom Construction Company. The architect was Franklin Burnham. It was built in a single concrete pour. Are you kidding me? Even the individual who messaged me back was surprised, as they replied, quite the feat in 1910. They even sent us a construction photo. The only problem with the construction photo is that it was already constructed and completed. Kind of a major issue for a construction photo, but I do appreciate them trying. After thousands of hours of research and everything that has been shared with me over the years, this thing was already there. Nobody in 1909 or 1910 built this thing. Now let's go to the second email I sent. And this one was sent over to the First United Methodist Church of Pasadena. And remember, these buildings are all in Pasadena, California. They're not thousands of miles away from each other. They're all right next to each other, on the same exact block. I gave them the exact 3 questions. And this one justified everything I've ever said throughout all of my episodes. Are you ready? They replied that this building was also built in 1 year, from 1923 to 1924. They do give us an architect of Thomas Barber, and here it is, and I quote, I am uncertain which construction company built the church. The church itself doesn't know who built it. They don't know how it got here. This is as clear as it gets, that these buildings are from the old world. I am uncertain who built this 99 years ago. This is not 400 years ago. I believe that we have just found possibly the biggest bombshell exposure on this topic so far, or at least right up there. The church has no idea who built their own building? This is incredible stuff. Groundbreaking, to say the least. This is no longer some crazy theory. This is hard proof that we are correct. This is legitimate evidence that these places are built by a past civilization. I believe that these other construction companies and architects that we are given are characters. They're make-believe. They're front people for a much deeper and much more incredible historical story. A hidden past, possibly our hidden past, one that we deserve to know about, since this is our home. We live here, and we deserve to know the truth about where we are and what has happened here before us. This trip to Pasadena was incredible. I loved walking around checking out all these buildings. It's one thing to see them on Google Earth, but standing there in front of them is just incredible. You honestly can feel a cool energy just standing there next to these places. Even the people that I brought with me said the same thing. The perfection that they used to build with is something that gives us insight to the past civilization and what they could have been capable of. I think that they had incredible natural healing powers. They cared about their buildings, their communities, their people. Something that we haven't been given in our lifetimes. In my opinion, this is all changing in a positive way for us. We are taking back this knowledge, learning about these kinds of things, sharing valuable information again with each other, with a click of a button, all over the world. Something that we haven't been able to do for decades. Until now. Here we have an ancient carving. And remember, in my opinion, we have had all this technology and much more in the past civilizations. This individual is shown wearing what is clearly a watch. And what I find very interesting is that I've seen this type of symbol many times before, on nearly every cathedral all over the world. I know I've seen many people say that these are some sort of incredible energy or frequency vibration sharing technology, which is very possible. And there's a lot of proof showing that this is most likely the case. They are strange for sure. They are not just windows. But is it possible that they were also clocks? Is it possible that they told the time and the seasons and possibly more? Do they still do this? And we just don't understand how to read them. I said don't be shocked if we revisit Budapest and see what else they have just sitting out here for everyone to see. We talked about their chocolate museum, and now I'd like to talk about their coffee shop, the Budapest New York Cafe. And before I begin, have any of us ever seen a building like this coffee shop actually be constructed? Any of us, anywhere? Or do any of our towns have any plans to build a coffee shop just like this? Or anywhere close? Why were all these buildings built before we all got here? And now there is not one in the entire world being built again. And was it so common that they built buildings like this one that they could just hand it over to a coffee shop? Yeah, you know what? We don't need this one anymore. Anyone want to just run their coffee shop in there? Great, here you go. So, of course, they tell us that a life insurance company was responsible for constructing this place in 1894. And here we have some normal, very simple construction, especially in the 1800s. Any one of those 1800 people would normally knock this type of construction out in just a few weeks. Even during the Great Depression, they used local prisoners. Or just tell the architect to just go build it himself, like they normally do. It's just ridiculous. The detail on this place is incredible. Now we have a depiction of this place from 125 years ago. Just look at this. Horses and wagons. People just roaming these dirt streets. These buildings were already here. These people in these pictures are the first people. They have no idea what's going on here. They were just put here. They did not construct these buildings. How can they be so technologically advanced, but they have dirt roads? Would the roads not be the first step in the construction process? These people have no idea what's going on here at all. They were tossed into this town and said, get to work in my coffee shop. This is from the past civilization. Now, let's dive into this insane narrative. Not only are they saying that they built this place in the 1800s, they're also telling us that they built this place in just 4 years. This kind of nonsense does not work anymore. This is absolutely insane. We are fully understanding that it would take longer than 4 years to construct this today. How is it possible that in the 1800s they can just put these together all over the block in 4 years? Not just this building, but all of them. Take a look at these people again and prove to me that they were capable of constructing this. They are the ones telling us that it took 4 years in the 1800s, with not a single photo of the construction process. We no longer need to just accept that, and I'm not sure why anyone ever did. But here we are asking questions finally, and waking up to the nonsense. 4 years to build a coffee shop that looks more impressive than anything we've ever seen constructed in our lifetimes. Where did this technology go? Who really built this place? And for why? It surely wasn't a coffee shop. In my opinion, there was a previous civilization, a much more advanced civilization, that either left here for more land that we are unaware of, or they were wiped off the face of the earth completely. And world's fairs were used to repopulate the cities. And here, we are given ridiculous narratives to explain why coffee shops look like palaces in the 1800s. Just throwing pillars up there on the 3rd story with ease in the 1800s, with no roads. We have horses and wagons in these pictures. Are these random people and this random horse and wagon photoshopped into this picture to make it look like there were people? It looks empty other than those fake people and fake horse. I could look at this building all day. 4 years to construct something that lasts forever. Now remember, we have talked about this town before. It's one thing to say that this is the only thing here in Budapest. The problem is that the entire city is covered in these unbelievable buildings, and they have no idea what to do with them, like we talked about in episode 30. The Parliament building has almost 700 rooms, and they use like 5 of them. They have a chocolate museum right across the street that's so incredible it looks like it's CGI. Their library as well. Now we add a coffee shop to the equation. Oh, and did we all catch it earlier, or did we miss it? The main door is guarded by 2 devil statues holding lanterns. And to me, just from looking at the building myself, do I see 2 or do I see 4? They look chained up. Are they even devils or are they people? Are they showing us the past civilization, chained up and suffering right on the building? And which construction company was this good in 1894? I believe the end is near, for the times where people walk right past these buildings, just completely unaware of what is right next to them, realizing that there was a past civilization that constructed these buildings, and they stand the test of time. Also very interesting and kind of a side note, and something to think about, that every statue from the past civilization shows humans that are just shredded with muscle everywhere. Are we being fed things that hold us down mentally and physically on purpose? Are our bodies naturally in perfect shape with perfect muscle? Is that the way we were created? And the system that we're in destroys it on purpose? I 100% believe so. I've never seen a statue on one of these places that isn't in perfect shape. Do you think that every artist in the world just wanted to sculpt a perfect looking person? Maybe. But if not, everyone looked like that. Why wouldn't a few statues be in average shape? Every single one of them all over the world has a shredded 8-pack with massive biceps, like they'd be training to play in the NFL for 10 years, or a bodybuilder. Instead, they look depressed on this building and chained up, all 4 of them. So we have this coffee shop that will be there forever that was supposedly built in 4 years. Oh wait, we aren't done with it? What is this? There's more? Oh, there's more. We have the controllers sitting above the people, of course. The big picture here right on the front of the coffee shop. Controllers sitting above the people, all happy, looking much smaller and not as in shape as us, and keeping us down. Chained up and miserable. Controlling us with fake stories, and once we all realize the fake stories, their chains will come off. And the depression, the miserable lifestyle goes away immediately. And this is very important to understand. It's not just about buildings. It's about learning the truth and understanding that we are incredibly special. We are incredibly intelligent once we lift the veil. But as long as we allow these 2 individuals to fool us, we will be chained and depressed. This city is just incredible. The whole thing is much older than we're told. And does it surprise you that we have this right down the road? St. Stephen's Basilica. They say this thing was built in 1890, which is a complete joke. We did not build this in 1890. But let's continue. And do we have proof of this? Here we go. It's not a fire, thankfully, this time, but a supposed demolition in 1868. It collapsed, so they say, and had to draw up a new one, of course, because that was easy in 1868. Finished the demolition work in 1875 and finished the rest of it in 1890. Oh, what do you know? This fake architect is dead a year later. Who believes this nonsense? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. There's not another fire, is there? What did we just find? In 1947, the wooden structure catches on fire during the repair work on the roof. The fire story is the nod to the hidden group that this is a building from the old world. It's the key to it all. It's in nearly every old world building. There is always a fire story. Another fire story. Can you believe it? It is so repetitive and right in our faces. I'm just going to be honest with you. When I find that there's another fire while researching these buildings, it blows my mind more and more every time. Because it is the key to understanding the narrative and understanding that these buildings are from the old world. It is 100% a symbol. In my opinion, there was never a fire here in this building. If there was, that also wouldn't shock me. But from what I've seen, many times there is no record of a fire ever being there. They simply throw it in the narrative to tell their group which building is which. As for the fires in today's time, they are an easy way to destroy a building and the old world without placing blame on anybody. They then collect the insurance money instead of hiring a demolition company. Just randomly catching fire in 1947 during some repair work. Incredible. I'll be revisiting Budapest again in the future. We still have a lot more to talk about here, including the Museum of Illusions, Heroes Square, Museum of Fine Arts, and this place. In Sweden, there's a building that is named the Oscarian Opera in Operan. And just as a reminder, and to shine some perspective on this, remember that we have the Kleksinski Federal Building in Chicago, and they got to use power tools. They had proper construction training, and we were all here to see it. And that took us 14 years to build. So now let's go back to this opera house in Sweden. Apparently, there was an opera house before this one, which is absolutely insane. And this is the original opera house. But I'm just gonna go with it so we can destroy this narrative. This is where we're told, for the first opera house, that Sweden finally had their own opera singer because they found a music academy. So Sweden figured out what music was, and now they need a place to show it off. And here is where things get very interesting. At some point in 1775, construction began. While living in huts and without a power tool in sight, the Royal Swedish Opera was completed less than 7 years later. They supposedly knocked this thing out twice as fast as our civilization took to build this pathetic box. And their way of transportation was a donkey. I thought that we were evolving and advancing. So let's continue. We are given Axel Johan Anderberg as the architect, who designed this palace. and constructed it all by himself, which is a total joke that they never mentioned that anyone ever helped these incredible master drawing characters that we, for some strange reason, can't reproduce today. So to show you all what's going on here, I'm gonna make this very simple. Since they make us bounce around from page to page to get this information, we are being told that Axel, the architect of the current Opera House, that somehow replaced the original 1782 Opera House, where we, of course, don't have any pictures of, and in my opinion, is the same building, was selected because he was the only person in the world that could get this job done. Oh, wait, what is this? There were so many people that could get this job done that Axel Anderberg had to win a contest against all of the other 1700s master builders of Sweden? Can you believe this? Another contest winner with the architecture of the gods flowing through his veins. I would love to see where this guy lived. I'm sure it was a shed or a hut, since this is what we were told about the 17 and 1800s. Not palaces and massive opera houses that last forever. So the first opera house is done in 7 years. No pictures of that one. And they demolish it because it was very easy back in the 1700s for some reason to get this type of building constructed again, and even better than the first one. So they did it in their spare time, of course. So how long does this one take to get Opera House number 2 done? Well, let's check out their website, where they tell us a major key as to why I believe that this is the same building. They did not knock any building down. They didn't build 2 opera houses. This is the only one. The first one took almost 7 years to build. How long do you think the second one took to build? If you guessed the exact same amount of time, almost 7 years, well, you're the winner. Okay, so I have a few more things to say about this opera house before we move on. Because of course we can't leave out the fire story that we have heard so many times, and are the nod that these buildings are from the past civilization. During the years where the first opera house, which in my opinion is the exact same opera house, but during the years where the first one was being destroyed and the new one was being built, the Swedish National Theater that was being used burned down in a fire. And one more thing to really drive this thing home for everyone. This so-called new opera house underwent a renovation. They say that it was nearly impossible to make out the subjects of the artwork in the stairwell inside the building because of all the smoke from the outside of the building, from the city, accumulated in just 91 years. So 91 years, and you can't even tell what the paintings were on the inside because of the smoke from the city on the outside. What are they even talking about here? This is a clear cover-up, that this was the original building. This is Opera House number 1. And those paintings were from the previous civilization. How much clearer could this get? And of course, they were restored to the exact same condition it was in the inaugural ceremony. Yeah, sure it was. Let me know what you think about that one. You all know what I think about that. Let's stay here in Sweden for now and take a look at the Riddarholmen Church, where we are told that we have located one of the oldest buildings in Stockholm. So this should be fun. And after what I just found, you'll all enjoy this one. Knowing what we know here that any construction project going on before the 1800s that looks like this is basically a laughing matter. We know from the AI ChatGPT what kind of manpower and what requirements would be necessary for something like this to actually take place and be constructed, and then go on to last forever, unlike anything we've ever constructed today, 200 plus years later. So 1800s is a stretch. 1700s, basically forget about it. It becomes nearly impossible, based on what the mainstream history tells us, that they rode on horses and suffered in the winters. Pulling granite, stone, brick, and the rest through muddy roads would be insane. Then each horse needs 10 gallons of water per day. So you'll have all of these things that the mainstream narrative blatantly ignores all over the world, every single time. They tell us that this church was constructed in the year 1300, over 700 years ago, before Sweden ever even wrote their first book, which happened 183 years after this building was constructed. It is so backwards, it's unbelievable. How can anyone look at this stuff anymore and say, Yeah, that all adds up. It 100% does not add up. It's logistically impossible. It isn't realistic. This is their website. They literally just say it was completed around the year 1300. Could have been. It might be, but who knows? Now, we all know that this is a lie. They're making up a random date, and people just believed it for years, until now. So they say that 725 years ago, they're over in Sweden knocking this thing out. With perfection, of course. Now, I've emailed the old Treasury building on Spring Street in Melbourne, Australia, and what they emailed me back should get anyone thinking. I asked them a basic question, something that they should be able to provide, since the camera was invented in 1816. And they tell us that this building was constructed in less than 4 years, from 1858 to 1862. Now, the question I asked them was, do you have any construction photos? They replied saying that there's a couple photos attached. Unfortunately, these are the only ones that we have from the construction. Now let's take a look at these photos for a second. There are some very strange things going on here. First of all, this building is not being constructed. It's clearly constructed. And I put an arrow in this photo, pointing at the right side of the building, because it's clearly being dug out of the dirt. This is not the way anyone would ever construct a building today, or ever. And I want to make this point very clear. So I sent the photo back to them with the arrow in there and said, just looking at the photo you sent over, was it originally built with the dirt covering that right side of the building? A reply that should shock anyone and at least begin to show anyone in the world that there is something seriously wrong with the history that we have been told. They replied saying that it was originally built with the dirt covering the right side of the building. Due to the rise and the fall of the land, the building is submerged. The rise and the fall of the land? I'm sorry, what? The south and east sides are fully exposed. So what we call the basement, the lowest level, is technically on ground level. In other words, they had to dig this thing out of the dirt. What we call the ground floor is elevated above the street level. So from one side, it looks like we have 3 floors. And from the other side, it looks like we have 4 floors. I'm sorry, but this is insane. Take a look at this photo that they sent over again. There is clearly a digging process going on here. They are removing this building from the mud flood, in my opinion, and they admit it without even knowing it. The way that the building sits today is exactly how you would construct it. You would build a foundation and then construct the building. You wouldn't build the building into the dirt. And I'd be willing to bet, after all of my research, that this building has a few more basements under the ground that we just aren't being told about. And before we go on, I've been wanting to show everyone this photo for a while. This is Mont Saint-Michel in France. This photo was taken in 1925. Now, on the ground, you can see there is a railroad track in the dirt. Railroad tracks need to be screwed into wood. If they were constructed in our timeline, just like this picture, you can see the wood because we constructed it. Now, the train was basically brand new to the world at this point, so we should be able to see the wood planks in this photo. They are completely covered up by the dirt. The only thing sticking out is the railroad tracks from, in my opinion, the previous civilization. And we are reusing their technology. This entire area was dug out of the dirt. You can see where the previous ground level was, here off to the right-hand side. This is an incredible structure, very clearly a place that was built by the previous civilization, considering Paris City Vision lets us know that this was built before cowboys and Indians. In fact, they tell us that it was built over 1,100 years before cowboys and Indians. In the year 708, very casually knocking this one out in the year 708. Any year would have worked, honestly. 706, 707 would have also been a winning number. Anything goes if you're the mainstream narrative, until now. Because we all know that this is just ridiculous and a complete lie. The logistics in building this before anyone even knew how to make paper is complete nonsense. 708. Wow. Oh, and did I forget to mention that this thing is in the middle of the water? Did I leave that part out? Well, yeah, it's in the middle of the water. And we are supposed to just believe that they had a great shipping company, an architect, a financial guy that would make sure that they had this all covered in the year 708. Oh, and it of course lasts forever. With 0 issues and not one flaw in the construction. It's perfect, unlike anything that we have ever constructed today. How does the mainstream history make any sense at all at this point? You cannot go from this in 708 to evolving and advancing into sheds. And now we build Motel 6s. It's crazy. How can anyone ever go into a history class again without laughing? The year 708 was just a year of brilliance, I guess. Yeah, right. These buildings are from the previous civilization, and more people are realizing this every single day. And once you know, you know. You don't go back to thinking that the year 708 built massive structures on a cliff in the middle of the water with a train that just pulls right up to the front door. And I was on Google Maps just looking around and saw this city in Italy. And I went down to the street view and I saw that they have this fountain. The whole city clearly was found, repurposed, and is being used today. And as we spin this camera view around, we are going to see a griffin right above their front door. So we see the Tartaria logo all over the world. And then I was going to show you these door frames. Look at the size of the people compared to the size of the door frame. The wood door is obviously our work. The stone frame is from the past civilization. The size of the people were at least double. Why build a door frame this big? Well, you would because the people were bigger. Today, we construct standard door frames at 96 inches for newer homes, which is 8 feet. We can all agree this man is probably 5'10", so let's say 6 feet to round it up. The existing door is double his size, let alone the entire stone frame. It's massive. It's at least 15 feet high. So I spin the camera around, and of course, they're doing construction, because what would these buildings do without our help? And you can see this lady here. Look at how small she is in comparison to this door frame. You can see our small entrance that we have built here at the bottom. This is the door size for us. Why would a civilization that is struggling through winters, riding around on horses and wagons, go out of their way to construct a door frame that are 15 to 20 feet high? When we are supposedly bigger than they were, they show us Civil War outfits where they're like half our size. Using common sense, the narrative is backwards. It's clearly lying to us. They understood construction and were very good at it. It lasts forever. And they built their door frames proportionate to their size, the exact way that we do. What an interesting city. Especially when we stay here in this city and look at the Rocca Pallina, a fortress that was built in less than 3 years, like 500 years ago. How can the narrative get away with this? They can't have this technology and then go live in sheds and have cowboys and Indians too. It can't have both. Either humans knew how to build or they didn't. The whole Abe Lincoln being born in a shed thing is just nonsense. That was over 300 years after they were knocking out this fortress. In just 3 years. So in 300 years, they forget everything? Or are we evolving and advancing? Which one is it? In my opinion, these narratives are nonsense. They are lies. The dates are all over the place. Just because a building is built in a different location of the world doesn't mean the narrative gets a pass. If a cell phone is created, the whole world advances. If a plane is created, the whole world gets the plane. The USA supposedly broke away from Europe. In the process of breaking away in the 1700s, did they all forget their brain? No. This was the start of the worldwide reset, in my opinion. An event took place right before this that started our entire worldwide narrative over. And we're seeing through their nonsense now. So this fortress is insane. Here we go. They destroyed a large number of Roman medieval buildings in order to build this fort, including houses, as well as over 100 tower houses, destroying gates and churches and monasteries. And here we go for the part that shows there is much more to this city. And honestly, the whole world below our feet. A civilization was here before us that was incredible. It turned the former city streets of the historic city center into underground passageways, which are now open to the public. Unbelievable. So in the mid-1800s, the fortress was partially destroyed and rebuilt. But in 1860, of course, only 12 years after they supposedly built it again, it was demolished and the Kingdom of Italy took over. I'm surprised that they didn't say that it burned down in a random fire, since they love to say that stone burns down in fires, which it doesn't. So in 1932, they go down into these tunnels and destroy whatever was there that they don't want us to see, as it would ruin their narrative in a second. And they call it a restoration, when we know that restoration really means destruction. And another destruction project in 1965. And guess what? They left us a wall to look at. Incredible. So I hope this clears up more for everyone, that the history that we've been told and forced to repeat over and over, generation after generation, is a lie. And they just throw dates around, and everyone just believed it for years. It doesn't matter what date they say. Nobody was there to verify it. And stone doesn't change the way that wood does over time. So if a building, or in this case an arch, is built 100 years ago or 5,000 years ago, if it was built in New York or in Italy, nobody would know the difference. So in this story, they're gonna tell us that this arch right here was built by people that were about 1,100 years away from creating paper. 2,300 years ago, we are told that this arch was made in the second half, not the first half, the second half, because they're gonna get specific now. So the second half of the 3rd century BC, which is 300 years before we started counting years the way that we do. So then they restore it in 40 BC, not 41 or 42 or 39, but exactly 40. And we fully trust that. Oh, we don't? No, we don't. Especially when they can't tell us the logistics of a building from the 1800s. There was no restoration project going on in 40 BC, 2,063 years ago. And yet again, we are given a doorway that in my opinion was not built thousands of years ago. This is possibly only a few hundred years old and shows the size that the people really were. The arch is part of a massive set of walls, which are 30 feet tall and 9,500 feet long, covering approximately a quarter of a square mile, over 3 hills, built in the year -300. Yeah, right. In episode 47, we talked about the Stone Sea in St. Louis, and we discussed that they are technology. And I want to go a little deeper here and make a connection and say that in my opinion, these are from the past civilization. They are being hidden by this cafeteria that the museum doesn't even need, since like 10 people are walking around it all day. But they clearly know the technology that these stone structures hold. I believe they recreated this technology, and I believe that the St. Louis Arch is a much bigger, possibly much more powerful recreation of this technology, being hidden behind the blinds in the basement. Where else in the world do you see these arches? And what are the odds that these are right next to each other? We have proven that they are attempting, and seems like it's successful, that they are able to extract an energy from the earth in this location. What is under the ground in this location? And what is the true meaning of the St. Louis Arch? The patterns and repetition. We are getting closer and closer to the truth. We know that one of the nods is the fire story. We have found that pattern here on this channel. And we have also found that they create characters, fake names, and that it is most likely through AI, because the repetition is overwhelmingly obvious. And we all remember from episode 47, when Henry Hobson Richardson was off building F.L. Ames gates, memorial halls, libraries, and cottages. F.L. Ames. F.L. Ames. Well, we all know what F.L.A.M.E.S. spells. Putting the word flames right in the narrative. Putting the period after the F and the L so that we can't search it. Putting this right in our faces over and over and thinking that nobody would ever see it. Thinking that nobody would ever be locked into their code and that nobody would ever put their lies right on the table for all to see.